Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged the punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. Invictus. Hello, business owners and my fellow citizens and my business associates and my customers and my prospective customers. I am Daryl Guberman, the CEO of Guberman-PMC, LLC, a quality consulting firm here in America. We're based in America. Business owners and my fellow citizens, this video today is very disconcerting because, as you can see behind me, the American National Standards Institute mission statement is half a nut, fuck you, and that is not said by me. That is said by one of their members, a Mr. Russ Chaney, who in 2019 was the chairman of ANSI. He was a representative. In June of this year, I put in a 54-page document trying to get nominated, and I was a nominee. I have all the emails. You'll see them on my YouTube channel. 54-page document, 16 letters of recommendation, 30 letters I sent out, 16 got back to ANSI, more than 50%. And I want to say thank you for the 30 that I sent my letter to, and also for the 16 that really replied back to ANSI. I thank you all the way around the gambit. Sent this document in. I'm sure that ANSI never received anything like this before, nor will they receive it again. I have over 40 years of quality underneath my belt in manufacturing, quality, special processes. We opened up our business in 2011. We've been open for now going on 12 years. Our background, aerospace, medical implants, medical materials, plastic distribution, and also printing, which was prior to the plastic distribution. Plastic distribution, we cut our teeth on, we dealt in every industry under the sun. We put this document in. And remember what I said? ANSI's mission statement, half a nut, fuck you. After 104 years in business, writing standards, eventually becoming an accreditation body, eventually purchasing ANAB, which 50% they always had of ANAB, along in 2013 with the American Society for Quality. They owned 50% and ANSI owned 50%. In reality, ANSI knew they owned the whole ball of wax, but they legitimized it in 2018. Fact. So we went on and we applied. And business owners, I want you to use your business sense, because we had to answer 9 questions as what Daryl Guberman brings to the table for ANSI. Well, I sure as hell don't bring half a nut, fuck you. Unbelievable. So the committee appreciates your interest in serving in an ANSI leadership position and your willingness to provide us the additional information. Sincerely, Russ Chaney, Chair of ANSI 2022 Nominating Committee. Do you think in your right mind that this guy is going to be a demonstrative manager? Call me into the office and say, Mr. Guberman, I apologize for the way I acted in 2019, and we would like to put you on the board, representing the small 5, 6, 10, 20, 30, 50 person shop, so that they have a say to the board. They have the say to the OEMs like Boeing, Lockheed, GE, etc. on the board of ANSI, because right now you have no ears whatsoever, and that is the backbone of the American economy, is these small mom and pop shops. I wanted to be the representative, and I could represent you well on ANSI's board. Absolutely. But you had Russ Chaney, rather than using management skills, he used barbarism. Half a nut, fuck you. We have a special guest here. we have, first off, we have Mr. Greg Adams from Kaiser Permante. And many times the CEO has no time to understand ISO certification in any of its derivatives. They know they need it, they have to get it, and they put other people to grab a hold of it, yet they do not know any of it. You see it at Boeing, for example, with the 737 MAX, 777, 787. Mr. Calhoun, the CEO, has no clue. I think the only thing he knows about aerospace is touching the engine cowling when he was a GE number cruncher. Let's put you down. Sorry, Greg, I got to show you this because this is very important. Because you have one of, oh, let me bring you back. I'm sorry, Greg. You have one of your employees sitting on ANSI's board. And their name is Jamie Ferguson. Yes, Jamie Ferguson sits on ANSI's board of directors 2022 roster. Okay, and I'm going to just say this. Do you like this? Half a nut fuck you? Is that Kaiser Permante's mission statement? Because you know what they say, an old schoolyard saying is, birds of a feather flock together. Let's continue. In 2013, ASQ, the American Society for Equality, I gave a speech to the Fairfield County and New Haven County branches of the ASQ. The American Society for Equality at that time owned 50% of ANAB, the American National Credit Board. Also, ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, owned 50%. So Mr. Dave Levy basically said in this, that ANAB has no problem with what you're doing. In fact, we support you, sir. So he gave us the thumbs up. We had 50% approval rating, Greg, wouldn't you say that? But he didn't push that up the ladder. In fact, on Boeing, getting back to Boeing, on their supplier portal, they said must be ANSI, ANAB, or internationally equivalent for third-party registrars. And when you find out from an email that Randy sent me that third-party registrar or international equivalent can be, here it goes, Iran, Pakistan, or Russia, and China. Well, China already has us. Terrible, you'll see. So what happened is I got 50% approval. Didn't need it, didn't want it. I wanted to be independent, as we still are business owners, and we're American-based, okay? What happened is Randy Doherty, at the time, he was a technical advisor for ANAB. And what happened is that he basically said that, but we recognize and accept that there are conformity assessment bodies and accreditation bodies, such as your body and your accreditation body, that are not part of the IAF and ILAC structure. IAF, International Accreditation Form, and you also have the factor that the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. So when he said, we recognize and accept, that is a 50% approval we didn't need from ANAB, but we got it. Greg, let me just say this. It's coming up, but I'm going to tell you the fact. In 2015, Randy, I have a picture of him, you'll see it in a flow chart. Randy handed over leadership of the IF to a communist Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who is also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services. Okay, and at the time, I said, no, I will not. I am a proud American. Thank you for the invitation, but forget about it, okay? Because I didn't want to be affiliated with Communist China as ANSI and ANAB are, and anybody who has a certificate and had maintained that between 2015 and 2021 may have had cybersecurity issues, because all the federal agencies that sit on ANSI, like the FTC, FAA, FBI, in fact, today, as a matter of fact, Christopher Wray was in quiz. This is November 15th, by the way, 2022. Christopher Wray was asked, the head of the FBI, about China, and he said, they're a detriment to our world. Well, let me tell you something. The FBI sat on ANSI's board between 2015 and 2021. They're still there, as a matter of fact, as a federal agency. So they've been controlled and manipulated by communist China for at least 6 years, if not longer, because Zhao Jinwu has been involved with our quality since 1994. We continue on. ANSI is a not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation, not-for-profit. They have both federal agencies and corporations on board. Here goes a good one, okay? You have the factor that Randy Doty was the vice president of ANAB, chairman of the IAF, and he was sitting on the IAF Tax Form 990 as the principal in 2015. He handed over leadership to Zhao Jinwu, a Chinese national, communist national. He's been involved with our quality since 1994. He is also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services that certified the suspect lab in Wuhan, China. And when you hear what Pamela Sales said, and she was the vice president of accreditation for laboratory, you will know why that more than likely that disease, that virus escaped from that lab. And you'll hear her saying, there's no protocol. Oy vey. Oy vey. By the way, oy vey, Greg, is a quality term. That means we're screwed. So anyway, he comes under China National Accreditation Law, Article number 7, which mandates espionage. ANSI and ANAB took over each other. Actually, ANSI took over ANAB in 2018. You have federal agencies and corporations, just a sample. But the high point is this. In 2017, a year after he says, there's no problem, we recognize you, blah, blah, blah. He was being advertised as the vice president of ANAB on the Department of Homeland Security. Why? The Department of Homeland Security sits on ANSI. They have a Phil Matheson, Department of Homeland Security standards guy, making like $200,000 plus, and we will get to him when we get a hold of the whole Department of Homeland Security deal and show you Randy Doty sitting on the DHS website. We took a snapshot because we knew once we exposed that, they were going to take him down, and they did. So while he sat on the Department of Homeland Security that's supposed to protect us from guys like this, he was the chairman of the IF while he sat on the Department of Homeland Security. You find anything wrong with that, Greg? Anyway, here goes another one, Greg. You have 10 different registrars in communist China that can issue an ANAB accredited certification. So you have certification that is compromised in this country through cybersecurity. I'm not saying that it happens, but my dear departed mom said that if you could think it, it can be true. Here is both Pakistan and also Iran sitting on the IAF right over by Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin, by the way, Greg, in 2009 got hacked by China. Lockheed not only sits on the IF, but they also sit on ANSI's board right over by the FAA, FTC, FBI, etc., DOT. They sat by Lockheed. ANSI, ANAB sat by them as well. The problem here is that, as you know, Pakistan harbored Osama bin Laden, 9/11 mastermind, and you have Iran, who admitted to harboring some of the terrorists that flew into the building, the Twin Towers, in 9/11. You can see the dates, how long they've been involved with an American company. Remember, the International Accreditation Forum is incorporated in Delaware. Also, Randy Doty said in an email to us that an IAF MLA is equivalent in accreditation to an ANAB certification, which means these organizations, and I say this emphatically, it is not the people of Iran, not the people of Pakistan, it's the politicians. We, the people, have to suffer for the idiocy of these politicians who have ego rather than their people, they're thought of, their constituents, as they say. Also, ANAB and ANSI, ANSI-ANAB are underwriters for the IAF and ILAC, the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, and the International Accreditation Forum, incorporated in Delaware. Here is a definition of what an underwriter is. To make matters worse, okay, Greg, since your employee is sitting on half a nut fuck you said by Russ Chaney, and don't worry, I'll let you listen to his audio file. He was so brash to leave me well, you'll see. Anyway, here's Zhao Jinwu, at the time in Wuhan, China. He was the chairman of the IAF. This is 2017. He was not only chairman of the IAF, but he was also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services, which gave them the certification. As that Pamela Sales said, again, I will say this. She said there is basically no protocols in laboratories. Laboratories are flipping coins when they're doing their examination of materials. Yes. To make matters worse, Greg, again, is that you have Anthony Fauci of the NIH getting inquisition by Rand Paul senator. And I'm sure that these guys, whether it's senatorial or Congress, gives these jokers who they interview probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month in advance the questions that they're going to ask. When asked, you have Anthony Fauci, NIH, CDC, FDA, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, USDA, FTC, FBI, they all sit on ANSI together. And Anthony Fauci said when he was asked about gain of function, he said just like this, I don't know. Yeah, right. Here it comes out of a Chinese technical magazine, and it says this is the second workshop, and the first item of business is gain of function research. Do you like that, Greg? Oh, unbelievable. So I did some research because I had customers that were very, interested in getting laboratory certified. And this is what I discovered. I discovered this title that says most scandals are happening in accredited laboratories. Also, you had a Marvin Schechter in 2011 give a report to the state of New York that stated that, in fact, ASCLD Lab, which was owned and operated, still is, as ANAB member, sits on ANSI by A2LA, and also ANAB accredits and certifies laboratories as well. They're all getting into the business. He said that, in fact, ASCLD Lab could more properly be described as a product service organization that sells for a fee a seal of approval. Yes, that's what he said. We looked further, Greg, into this mess. We found many laboratory failures. Once again, many. Under deposition, Pamela Sales, as I told you, when she said this killed the whole certification process, because if you have variances within a process, you have a process that's out of control. That's the way we always learned in quality. Those were my first learning lessons when I got into quality. If there's variances in the process, it can vary a tad bit possibly, but you cannot have it vary too much. And she's basically telling you got too much variance in laboratory. Under deposition in Texas, she said, one of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards that forensic laboratories around the country have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that labs can choose to follow or not. Well, basically, that's telling you Wuhan, China probably didn't follow anything because Pamela Sales said that the laboratory certification is out of control. So what happened is I did a video on A2LA, which is an accreditation body for laboratory. I said that they sit on ANSI right over by sheriff departments that are forensic laboratories, and also the Department of Forensic Science that the FBI runs. In fact, ANAB had their certificate. They had to withdraw their certificate several years ago because of glaring improprieties in process function within the laboratory. They also sat on IAF at the time that we took this snapshot. They were being watched over and controlled by Communist China 2015 to 2021, just a mere year ago. You have a situation here that you have an Ashley Morton who works for A2LA, who said to us underneath that, underneath our video, A2LA does not sit on ANSI. They are both American accreditation bodies with equal standing. Well, we showed Ashley in another video this issue, and then we have Russ Chaney come out. Russ Chaney, at the time he called me in 2019, as you can see, he's the chairman on ANSI's board of directors. And he's the one who made the mantra. He's the one who tells us all about what you've bought into if you're buying into ANSI-ANAB accreditation. Half a nut, fuck you, because he is the representation of ANSI. No matter how you cut this back, Greg, I'm sure that you have code of ethics and all the rest of that at Kaiser Permante that your employees have to read to represent Kaiser in the best light. Now, would you say that Russ Chaney represented ANSI in the best light, saying half a nut, fuck you? Well, let's let you listen to this if we may. And this is the audio that he left us. We can only listen to that so many times when we do these videos. But that's what he said. In 2019, Greg, I wrote a letter to Joe Bathia. Joe Bathia didn't have any, he should have got together with Jameson Carroll of Carroll and Weiss down in Atlanta, Georgia, but he probably didn't. He sent the letter out, plus he sent the voicemail out that we sent them on a zip drive. And what Jameson Carroll said is that after analysis, we were unable to identify any harassing or objectionable content in the brief audio file provided. Well, let's listen to it.
Please help me turn your call as soon as possible. Record you.
So what this is telling me, as a representative of ANSI, ANSI's mission statement is half a nut, fuck you. I guess what he's trying to say is that that's the quality dispensed, because let me just say this. Pfizer, who sits on ANSI, had 15 million vials of COVID vaccine taken back because of contamination. They also skipped quality processes. How do you like them apples? And standards. They sit on ANSI's board, right over by the FDA, USDA, FBI, all the rest. You have Johnson & Johnson skipping quality processes, 60 million vials of COVID vaccine because of contamination, get recalled. What is going on? Skipping quality process, sitting on ANSI by the FDA, USDA. What do you call that, honestly? So let me just say this to you, if I may. We went down to ANA, we went down to ANSI, and we picketed them. First, we went to New York. They have no signage whatsoever. Once we got to New York, we wanted to go down to Washington. We went down to Washington, D.C., and of course, there was absolutely no signage up there, Greg. No signage whatsoever. So what we did is we carried this sign, because we feel that if Russ Chaney says this, half a nut, fuck you, that must be their mission statement. And with your employee out here at Kaiser, sitting on ANSI's board is Jamie Ferguson. What is that saying about your management? What is that saying about your title as CEO? Are you demonstrative enough to take ANSI on and say, what the hell is going on? All I wanted was an apology. Now it's too late. Once I applied for director at large, and because Russ Chaney was the nominating chairman, game over. They had the opportunity and they blew it a second time. Do you see that? Is he a good manager? No. Is Joe Bathia, the $2 million man, a good CEO? No, he should be let go. Jameson Carroll, fired. Russ Chaney, let go. Russ Chaney, as a matter of fact, should still be welding pipe together as a plumber or whatever the heck he is. And that's it. So I'm going to leave it here. So I say this again. Birds of a feather flock together. Is this your mission statement? Half a nut, fuck you? Because your employee is sitting on that board. Doesn't say much for your organization. Again, 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS @yahoo.com. I thank you.